Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
So let's just take a moment, sit still. I just want you to take a moment and feel your breath inside of you. That's it. Just sit still and feel the breath inside of you. And that's it. That with one little simple act of being conscious of our breath, we create a little home for ourselves. That when we connect with that breath, we feel at home. And that's a little bit about connecting with what we're talking about today. But before we get into that, I want to give an overall structure for the next 2 months, because I've never done this before. One of the challenges of Mother's Day and Father's Day is first of all, it's assuming everyone has a mother and father, or the family system looks like that, and we know that's untrue. There's many different conglomerations of the family system. And it seems like the mothers are this way and fathers are that way. And what I know in my family, and I know from listening to many of your stories, that it never fits in easy categories. That feminine energy and masculine energy always, it's not just now, has always been on a spectrum, and we all have different degrees in different areas. So I've always had trouble with these 2 months, like how do I approach it and not leave people out? I've tried Parents' Day instead of Father's Day. I've done various things. This year I'm doing something I've never done. I probably will never do it again, but I just recognize I want to do it, so I'm doing it. And that's, so I personally did have a mom and a dad, and our external family system was sort of what is called average. I don't know. So he played the father role, and she played the mother role. He was sort of the lead. She was secondary. Although in many ways, and I've heard this for a lot of people, she had a lot of masculine energy, he had a lot of feminine energy. So the roles weren't clear in terms of that, but there was definitely in the external structure of mom and dad. Also, my parents, like every one of human being, have shadow sides. And so I could look at, well, what's the shadow side, and go into that. But I didn't want to, because I've done a lot of that, and I feel like, I remember my very first New Thought minister, Reverend Russ Williams, who 35 years ago said, you know, when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you don't want to pitch a tent and camp out there. You want to integrate it and then move on. So I've done a lot of the shadow work and all that. So I want to get to the good stuff. Because my parents, like your guardians, whoever your guardians are, or whoever those figures, it doesn't even have to be guardians. As you got older, you might have parental figures. I know Jerry's a mom and a grandmother for so many of us. So whatever those parental figures look like for you, they had gifts to offer us. So one of the things I want you to be in the question for in the next 2 months, May and June, were what were the gifts that for anyone who plays a somewhat sort of motherly role in my life, and anyone who plays a somewhat fatherly role in my life, what were the gifts that they gave me? So maybe this week begin just thinking about it, maybe journaling about it, talking to your friends about it. What were the gifts that they gave? Not denying that they had shadow side, not denying that there's all sorts of problems. But sometimes I think we've gotten so strong on the shadow side, we forget there was good stuff too. Especially if we've chosen our own motherly and fatherly figure. So this month I'm just doing things that I've learned from my mom for the whole month. And June I'm doing things that I learned from my dad the whole month. The positive things. So to begin with, we were raised in the United, and I say actually my mom had us raised, my dad was an atheist, but my mom wanted us to have a church education, so we went to the United Church of Christ, which is a very liberal Protestant church, and I was in Sunday school on Sundays, and they must have been, I don't remember, but they must have been talking about Bible, miracles, Jesus walking on water and the such. And I remember my mother saying to me, Harriet, I don't know if those miracles happened, but I don't think that's what was important. What was important is what he was teaching, because what he was teaching was about a way of life. That what matters, if What matters is how you live every single day. And it makes me think of Jack Kornfield, who said, I don't know if he coined the term, but after enlightenment, the laundry. That even if you have these big miracles, you still have to go back to your everyday experience. And for me, I know a lot of you have animals and they pass on, and you know that impacts your everyday life. Suddenly you come home and they're not there greeting you. I know I felt that so much more than I ever realized was when Julian went off to college. That first week, I was knocked out. And the things I was missing wasn't like, oh, we don't get to go to any really awesome football games or have these. What I missed was my everyday interaction with him, just having a relationship with Julian day in and day out. Did you do your homework? What practices do you have? Just the daily ordinariness of life. That's what I missed, and that's what knocked me out. Suddenly, my daily life had changed dramatically. And that's when I really got this whole thing that my mom was talking about, and after enlightenment, the laundry, that it's really in the ordinary life that has so much power. And so I want us today to look at our ordinary life. And so there's 3 elements that I wanted to just highlight. And I'm highlighting them so you can look at them too. One is our ordinary life is our environment. What does your environment say to you? Does it nurture you? Does it inspire you? Are you indifferent to your environment? So this is your home environment, the environment of your car. We spend a lot of times in our car, in your offices, nature. What is your environment? I know for my mom, her mother was a Pennsylvania Dutch, which is German. So she was very clean. You know, she used to laugh, you could eat off the floor. So my mom wasn't like that, but we had a clean house. Our rooms weren't clean, and that was a constant battle, but there was no way she was going to have her house dirty, so she would throw her stuff in our room, and she would, then the battles came about our room. But the house, there was no way she was going to, I don't ever remember stuff flying around. And our cars were that way. And as I was thinking about environment, I recognized how pleasurable that was. I took it for granted because I grew up in it. And I'm not always the neatest person now, and I missed that. I'm like, oh, that's something that actually makes a difference to my soul. Last week we were talking about coherence, and where everything sort of feels like it's lining up. And I recognize having things straightened up, clean, impacts my soul. It's not that it's right, because there's people, you have the artist, the nutty professor who's got the papers everywhere and scattered. That's fine too. This is not about right and wrong. I want to be really clear about all of these things. That there is no external authority. I want to get very clear about that because I think we continue to go back to some critic in our head that's an external authority telling us the way it should be. We have to learn how to say, okay, thank you very much. Shh. Because it has to be incoherent with our soul, and nobody has power over that. There's no authority. How your home fits your soul is what matters. How your car fits your soul. Again, not right or wrong. And then you can ask yourself, does this fit me? Do I want to shift at all? Because we're all here about, to me, it's like a constant growth of coherence. So what fits my soul? I think of Valley and Bottom Montessori schools are very big on the environment. You create the environment for the kids. They think the kids will flourish if you have the right environment. I think of my brother, he got a place to live in D.C. when he first out of school. And it was a condominium, and I've never seen it, and the way he described it, I was like, holy smokes, this place is going to be amazing. I mean, every time we talked to him, he was obsessed with it, talked about it all the time. I went to his home. It looked like a one-bedroom apartment. Like, wait, what? It did not compute with the way he was talking about it and what it was. But he invested so much love in his environment. Everything made a difference. Everything was like an expression of his soul that when he walked into it, he saw a palace. He didn't see a one-bedroom apartment. It's not about the size. It's about your heart and your environment. So the question to ask ourselves is, what's your environment? Is it serving you? Is it inspiring you? Paintings on the wall. We had paintings on the wall. I don't know what, they weren't like exceptional. They were just normal paintings. And as children, my siblings and I, we all want one because we grew up looking at those paintings all the time. Kids are paying attention. They're present to what's on their wall, and it starts to become part of our soul. Kids know that. So we all want the paintings because those paintings have become part of our soul. Are the paintings and the pictures on your walls, are they part of your soul? Are those things you want part of your soul? Do you have little altars that uplift you spiritually? All these different things. There's another element which I hadn't thought about, is my parents played the piano, and we were all asked to play the piano, and then a second instrument. So in my home, there was always music happening. Not necessarily good music, but there was music happening. And if that wasn't happening, my dad was listening to albums, my mom, there was always music. When I went off on my own as an adult, I didn't think about music that much. I might play it now and then, but I didn't think about it much. And then when I married Jack, suddenly there's music in my house again. And at first it was hard to adjust to because I had actually gotten used to silence, and I thought silence was superior. And what's happened is like, oh no, this music, it's like a friend. It's like being with a friend at home, and that's a really extraordinarily powerful part of our environment. So there's a musical environment too. So there's the art, there's the music, there's the order. Do you like order, not order? So all of that will be unique to you. So as we're looking about a way of life, one of the most important parts of that way of life is our environment, and really being present to it, and does it serve us? The next part that my mom really gave us was structure. When I was in college taking a child development class, we learned that children really thrived with consistent structure. And again, be very clear, my parents had shadow side. It's not like they were perfect. I'm focusing on their good stuff. And one of the things that she was really good at was structure. We had a structured life. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, we always ate together. No one ever ate by themselves. If you were home, we ate together at the same time, at the same table. My dad created a prayer before breakfast. He's an atheist, but he thought it was good for the family. So he created a prayer. He said that same prayer before breakfast. Then my parents created a kids' prayer, and we said that same grace every day before lunch. The kids did. And then my mom created her prayer, and she said it every night before dinner. She said that grace. Our entire life for years. How we did birthdays. Every kid we have 6 friends, a birthday party, then we had a family. And there was structure around all of that. Family vacation, 2 weeks every year, followed where my dad had, where he had his lawyer ABA meetings. Wherever that was, we'd have a vacation, 2 weeks around that. How we did Thanksgiving, we went down to Akron. And Christmas, oh my gosh, that was like totally structured. And I was just even thinking about this morning, not only was it so structured in a good way, we still do it. Like Julian's turned 21 in January. At Christmas, he's like, we can't go to bed yet. It's Christmas Eve. We got to reach us the night before Christmas. And he's 21. And I'm like, but then I'm talking to my brothers. They still do it with their kids, and they're way older. They're in their 30s, and my brothers are older than me. It's like these structures, and it's not because we had to. What we learned in that child development class was totally correct. It created such a warmth, such a sense of safety. We felt so safe because we knew year after year after year after year, this is what was going to happen. And it felt like a warm embrace, this wonderful structure. So as an adult, I had to look at, because we're not quite as structured, I'm not like my mom in many ways. I had to figure out, okay, what are my structures? How do I want to make that look? And then we have our whole spiritual life. What are the structures of my spiritual life? How do I integrate that into my life? How consistent am I in those spiritual practices? Do they consistently serve me? And do I feel safe in them? to know that no matter what, I'm going to do my spiritual practices, and that's like a solid thing for me now. Spiritual practices. We get to create what works for us. So as we're looking at a way of life, we're looking at our physical environment, our musical environment, our art environment, our friendship, our social life. I didn't really get into that, but the social environment that we're in, communities, the people, that's our environment. I'm getting into the people next week, that's why I'm not going there. And then what's our structures? What are the habits that we do day in and day out? Not right, not wrong, but what are they? What are they for you? What are the structures of your life, and do they create a sense of warmth, of safety, because you know you can count on them because we're the adults, we create it. In fact, we knew when my mom started going off, we were trying to figure out when did it start her, she ended up having dementia. We started to look at when that happened, and there's when a lot of her structure, because she's a very structured person. Let me say, when we're talking about structure, there's degrees. Here's an example of my mom's structure. I was visiting her. Her office was on the second floor. I yell up to her, "Mom, I'm having lentil soup for lunch. Do you want to have some?" And she said, "Well, what day is it?" And I said, "It's Tuesday." She goes, "Nope, I can't have it. I have lentil soup on Wednesday. I have yogurt on Tuesday." And she wouldn't cross over. I'm like, that was her structure, and she wasn't going to mess with it. All her paperwork, everything's organized. So that's how I know I'm not quite my mom, but she's totally structured. And so when that started going, because that was her, it wasn't it was right or wrong, but that was her, like, oh, there's things that are beginning to shift. And she's been like this her whole life. It gave us some information about changing. Again, but here's one other piece about the structure that she was really good at. Pass this on to you. I'm just passing on great, because it was great for us. As structured as she was, she loved going away from the structure, cheating on the structure. And so it always felt like a little conspiracy. So, oh, my dad's not home for dinner tonight. We're going to go to McDonald's, which my dad would never do. And it's like, we're all going to McDonald's. And it's like, we were all in on it, and we're having so much fun. It's like deviating from the structure also was fun. And so we had the structure, but you also could absolutely have times where you just have a great time breaking the structure. And so I love that flexibility. So adding that, it's important in spiritual practices. Oh my gosh, I have to be perfect. I have to do it every day. If I'm not consistent, da-da. What if you just make it like, oh, that was really fun to take 3 weeks off from my spiritual practices. I had so much fun having that freedom and not having to think about them. Oh, now I'm ready to go back. And not looking at it as right or wrong, but just like I needed a break. I needed to go on a 2-week vacation. And now I want to go back to them because that structure of doing my spiritual practices helped me. It's all about our attitude. That gets me to our third. So we're doing physical environment, including music and art, visual. Structures of habits, habit patterns of how we live our life, and then our internal environment. And that, I think so much of what we do in Centers for Spiritual Living is about the internal structure, so that could go on for like a year. But it's our human inner structures, how we talk to ourselves, how we respond, how our attitude is. Do we look at it like, oh man, I screwed up, or like, oh, that was kind of cool. I learned what it's like not to do that, or I learned blah, blah, blah. I mean, how we approach it, our inner attitude, and our spiritual life. What is that inner life like for us? I had an interesting week last week, and I'm going to be vague about it. And the reason why I'm going to be vague is I'm shifting how I am. I tend to be pretty open, but more and more I'm realizing when a lot of my learning happens in relationship to other people. And even I used to say, well, if I don't just say their name, it's fine. But I'm noticing people are getting a little bit more protective. And as people are getting more protective, I feel less comfortable sharing really details about anything. So I'm sharing just a very generic thing, not because I want to hide anything, but just to honor people's privacy, which is important. So I was in a group context where we were having a discussion about something, and it was going on. And I was participating in it a lot. And I haven't done that in a long time, so I was participating. And then there's tributaries. Then there's the group discussion, and then there's other discussions to be had because when things come up individually. So that took up so much of my time. This is why I don't do it anymore. It's very time-consuming. And then a whole nother discussion I would say that was a very human discussion, about it. And then a whole discussion on spirituality came up in another group setting about non-duality. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. It's about non-duality. So, and what was interesting for me, I'm just talking about the inner life, is how tenacious I was in this. I just kept at it. And I would say I was tenacious like a bulldog, but it doesn't feel like that's fair to the bulldog. So I just say I was tenacious. And just kept at it. And of course, I'm keeping at it because there's something in me that is out of coherence. And I'm trying to get them to understand what I'm saying, but the reason why I want them to understand what I'm saying is because I'm out of coherence, and I think if they disagree with me, then I'll be in coherence. So I get really intent on them agreeing with me because then I'll be in coherence. And they weren't agreeing with me, and it was... So obviously, you can't get in those discussions without spending a lot of time on your own. So this was taking a lot of my time. And what that told me is, oh, this is important to me. There is something inside of me that really thinks this is important to me, not to like healing the world. It's all about healing the world, and the discussions included the world. But I wouldn't be so personally invested if it wasn't something in me. And what happened was in the spiritual group, someone said something, and it was just a click, and I'm like, oh. And here's the most amazing thing. It was the exact same issue. Totally different topics. One was very spiritual-centered, one was very human-centered. And yet, the reason why I was engaged in both of them is because it was the same issue for me. And as soon as I got it, and as soon as I got what was out of alignment for me, it was over for me. I didn't have to engage anymore. And I'm giving that example because as we're looking at our inner life, our inner structures, our inner environment, we want it to be a safe environment for ourselves, first and foremost. I want to feel safe inside of myself. And when I'm troubled like that, I'm not feeling safe anymore. And I can't blame anyone else for my inner safety. That can only come from me. I cannot put my inner safety on anyone else but myself. And so if you're feeling agitated, don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's an opportunity to say, oh, I want to feel safe within me, and I have to figure out what's going on so I can move into that coherence. Yesterday I heard about, I've always known about this, a meditation teacher named Sharon Salzberg. Has anyone heard about Sharon Salzberg? She teaches meditation with Jack Kornfield and Daniel Goldstein. She's primarily on the East Coast. I've heard about her for decades. I mean, probably since the 80s. I've never listened to her, never read a book, and she was on the Moth Story Hour. For those of you who come to Sunday talks, know I've been using Moth Story, and she gave a story. And I'm like, about her journey. She had a very difficult childhood, meditation. She blew me away. I'm like, how did I never listen to her before? I've never read a book. I can't speak to everything, but all I know is she blew me away yesterday. My heart opened. I fell completely in love with her when she said, the problem with the way people approach meditation is they think the idea is to stop thoughts. That is not the purpose of meditation. The purpose of meditation is relationship. The purpose of meditation is you are shifting your relationship with your thoughts, with your inner world. I love that. I'm like, why am I only hearing about this now? I love it. It's our relationship with our inner life. That's what meditation is about. It's not about stopping our inner life. It's not about like you're never supposed to think things. I just listen. I mean, whatever. It's. You can't talk to any meditation teacher if you ask them honestly, do they stop their thoughts for long and that's their meditation every day? No. It's about our relationship with our inner life and to become more and more present to it. Our inner environment. looking at your life, looking at it as a way of life. What do you do to nurture your inner life? Do you have a prayer that you say, I work on prayer throughout my day? And I'm not talking treatment prayer. In our organization, we teach 5 steps. It's always very simple statements that I can continue to return to throughout the day, match it with my breath. And it's amazing how at home I can feel and how much deeper that one prayer can go deeper and deeper. Do you have an inner prayer that you do? Do you have an inner spiritual practice that you are consistently returning to over and over again? What's your inner environment like? Is it compassionate? Is it gentle? Is it kind? Is it all-inclusive? That's one hint. The issue that I was having in both cases is it felt exclusive and not all-inclusive, because I recognize that's really important for me, is to be all-inclusive inwardly, all-inclusive. So those are the way of life. What's your physical environment? Day in and day out, what are you looking at? What are you listening to? What are you seeing around you, feeling around you? Your structures of life, your habits that you do day in and day out. We brush our teeth twice a day. What other things do you do every single day? And do they support you? Do they support your life as a spiritual journey? And then your inner world. Are you in coherence? Because the inner world and all these external things, it's coherence. So I heard a story yesterday on the Moth Story Hour. And it's the very first story of they posted it on Spotify on Friday. So if you want to, he's a great storyteller. And one of my challenges of telling the stories is they have 10 minutes or 12 minutes to say a beautiful story on one thing. I don't have that time. I can never say it the way they say it. But it's a beautiful story. It's the first one. So if you want to listen to it. It's by Peter Aguero. And he's an artist. And he was just on the floor, just in pain. He said, I was trying to write a story, and I thought it was going to be a comic story about my life, and it turned out to be a psychological horror story. And he said, I just wanted to die. I just wanted to, he wanted touch. He's like, I just wanted to be in the carpet. I just wanted to be, I was in so much pain. And he said, what I recognize is that in so much of my artwork, I think my sense is he's a storyteller, is there's just so much pain all the time, and I was tired of the pain, and I had no energy left, and I was sort of done with everything. And my wife suggested, his wife, Sarah, suggested that he take a pottery class. And he said, why a pottery class? And she said, because it's gentle, and I think it'll feel like it's giving you a hug. Which I thought was beautiful. He was talking about the theme of his story was touch. And so he's taking this pottery class, and the guy says, okay, we're gonna center center it. And he said, here's the thing about centering the clay on the wheel. You can't center it a little bit. It's either centered or it's not. So take that humanly. You're either centered or you're not. And so he started learning how to do pottery, and the teacher kept saying, because I'm gonna teach you how to do it, but you're gonna keep forgetting. But just know I'm always here, and I'm just going to keep reteaching you. Can you get that message? Whatever we need to learn, we're going to forget, but there's this presence that's going to keep teaching us. And so what he was teaching him was to sit still and to breathe, always before he made a move. So he said, breathe, make a movement, and the shape will change. Breathe, make a movement, and the shape will change. Breathe, make a movement, and the shape will change. To me, that's what this whole way of life is about. My mom had said, the way this all came about for me, because she was pretty adamant about that it's not about the miracles, it's about a way of life. But for me, when we start to become conscious and present and breathing in the midst of our ordinary life, in the midst of whatever, doing the dishes, taking a shower, going to work, getting all the things we do habitually, our environment, looking at paintings over and over, hearing music, all of it, our inner life. We get used to our self-talk so much that we don't even notice it. The more we just breathe and become present to it, that's when the miracles happen. That's when the universe opens itself up. And he said, as he was doing this pottery, he looked into it and he realized the entire universe was in that pottery. But that's because now he was being fully present to it. He felt all those things he wanted. He said, I felt held, I felt nurtured, I felt cared for, because he was being present into that wonderful moment. I think of George Washington Carver. I don't know if we have this on our website, but there's a book called A Man Who Talks to Flowers. And that's how George Carver, who came up with hundreds, maybe even more, like 1,000 inventions, but at least hundreds of inventions. And the way he did it was to be in nature and to be present with it. He would stop and he would sit with the flower and he would be present with that flower. And he said, and as I was present with it, it suddenly would open up the secrets of the universe. The more present we are with our everyday life, our very ordinary everyday life, the more we're conscious about all aspects of our everyday life, it starts opening miracles day in and day out. And so it turns out that a beautiful, ordinary way of life is also a life of miracles. Let's pray. And how grateful I am to feel and to know the miracle of this moment, which is so ordinary. How many of us throughout our life have gone to services and spiritual communities? How many prayers have we heard, have we spoken, have we said? It's so almost ordinary the more we do it. It just becomes an ordinary part of our life. And yet in this moment, stop, we breathe, feel that breath inside of us. Know that the divine presence is right where we are, and this is no ordinary moment. Even in the midst of the ordinary is the spectacular, beautiful presence of Spirit, revealing its beauty, its harmony, its grace, its love, its peace, its joy, its healing, whatever is needed in this moment. This power and this presence is giving it to us in abundance. Because our hearts and our bodies and our minds and our souls are not on automatic pilot. We've stopped. We are listening. We are open. We are available. And when we are available to the infinite presence of Spirit, it pours its good into us uniquely as each one of us is needing in this moment. Right now, we are aware and we are allowing that presence to reveal in our hearts, our minds, and our bodies, and our souls that which we each need in this moment uniquely. So just breathe in and receive what you need to receive in this moment. What a beautiful awareness to know that this givingness and this receiving and this beautiful, miraculous life is our ordinary way of life. Day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year. We are living the life divine. We are living the ordinary life. It is all one, as each and every one of us uniquely, powerfully, in its healing grace, now and forever. In deep abiding gratitude, I absolutely know that it has fulfilled itself here and now and continues to do so for every one of us for all eternity. In deep abiding gratitude, we let this word be now, completely clear and confident, that as this word has been spoken, as these revelations have been received and continue to be received, it is done. It is done. So I invite you now to join me in saying, and so it is. Amen and amen.
I walk in God in all I do. I walk in God in all